DataWalk is an advanced software platform that enables all of your internal and external data sources to be integrated into a single universe for analysis. DataWalk establishes connections between data elements and enables efficient, advanced investigations. In the DataWalk system, we first see the Universe Viewer, which provides a simple visualization of all the data in the system. In this case, we've integrated police reports, supplemental police reports, jail records, gang intelligence, and many other data sources. After integrating this data, we have a consolidated view of people, crimes, vehicles, weapons, and so forth, and we also see connections between these data sets. This data model is customized for each deployment and is highly flexible depending on the needs of each specific agency. In this example, we have loaded a small fictitious data set of people and their associated vehicles, crimes, and so forth. In this case, we wish to investigate a recent series of unsolved bank robberies which have occurred in the South Bay area of Los Angeles. First, we consider a tip that we have received, suggesting that a bank employee may have been involved in these robberies. The name, address, date of birth, and driver's license number of each bank employee has been gathered in an Excel spreadsheet, and there are about 300 records in total. To check these names against those in our system, we simply drag the Excel file onto the Universe Viewer, specify desired connections against our data, specifically driver's license numbers, and the system instantly tells us that only one of the 300 bank employees is already in our system. We see that this person is Alistair Davis. DataWalk provides the ability to view a dossier of all key information about a person, assembled from data available in the agency's internal systems. We see that Alistair Davis was previously arrested for driving while intoxicated. He does not necessarily seem to be a candidate for a bank robbery, so for now we conclude that there are no strong suspects among the employees at the 4 bank branches. We will now take a different tack on our investigation. On the Universe Viewer, we select bank robberies, and we see that there are 1,200 bank robberies in the system. We filter down to only unsolved bank robberies from the last 4 weeks, and we see that there are 7. We view details of these crimes, and we note that a handgun was used in each one of these robberies. We then view locations of these 7 robberies on a map. 3 of the robberies are in various outlying areas, but we see that there is a cluster of 4 bank robberies in a relatively small area around the South Bay, and we further note that those 4 banks are within a 2-block radius of freeway on and off ramps. We select the specific crimes of interest and load them on a network graph. A witness has stated that a few days before the robbery of the last bank, there was a black BMW with 3 black males in the parking lot that seemed to be watching the bank, and this information from a supplemental police report is available in the DataWalk system. So on the graph, we add vehicles that are associated with the banks. 2 days later, a confidential informant calls the station saying they have information on someone who has been flashing large amounts of cash. He has a moniker of Bray and is a member of the Bangers gang. We search the DataWalk system for Bray, and we have one match in our system, for a Richard Bryson. We view his dossier and see that this Bray is indeed a member of the Bangers, so it appears we are looking at the same Bray mentioned in the tip. By the way, we'll also note here that the same dossier is available to officers in the field who are using laptops or tablets. Now, in this case, we add Bray to our graph, and then add his gang affiliation. And by adding vehicles, we also determine that he drives a black BMW. As this gives us our first potential loose connection between Bray and the robberies, at this point we'd like to document our findings, and for this we'll use DataWalk's storytelling facility. To do this, we can easily take a screen snip, title this Possible Richard Bryson Link to Unsolved Bank Robberies, and add a comment that witness said a black BMW was observed at scene of one of the crimes, and Richard Bryson owns a black BMW. We can then preview this to ensure it looks okay, and this becomes the first page of our story. During our investigation, we can then add additional pages as desired to create a visual, documented story that can easily be shared with colleagues and prosecutors via DataWalk or as a PDF. We next add Bray's arrests, where we see the arrests as previously shown on his dossier, and we then add people to these crimes. We see that Bray has had multiple arrests with 3 known associates who go by the names of Spooky, Capone, and Little Bam Bam. We also see that the last known address of all 4 of these individuals is 150 West Compton Boulevard in Los Angeles. Further research shows Spooky and Capone were just released from prison after serving time for bank robbery. This key piece of information fuels our suspicion that Bray and his associates could perhaps be involved with the recent bank robberies. Bray was also in prison at the same time as Spooky and Capone for an unrelated strong-arm robbery. Armed with this information, surveillance is initiated at the location associated with our suspects. We set up a poll cam to see who is coming and going from the location, and we identify 2 more people, Tori Westbrook and Tony Barnes. And we see that they are also members of the bangers. We put a tracker on Bray's vehicle, which is being driven by Tori. We add the tracker logs to our graph and note locations where she parked. On a map, we view the locations where she parked, and we see that 2 of the locations are across the street from banks. A search warrant is served for her cell phone records, such that we can then add Tori's phone calls to our graph. And we see she is frequently talking to Bray. We can view these call logs and times that the car is parked on a time series analysis, and we see that Tori was calling Bray specifically while parked at the 2 banks. We then do a warrant for Bray's phone records, and to more easily visualize these, we display these on a new graph. We put Bray on the graph, then add his calls, and then add data from cell towers. We view this information on a map, and we see that his calls have pinged from several towers nearby the banks that were robbed. With this data, we do a week-long surveillance at the 2 banks we observed being cased, and Bray, Tori, and Spooky are arrested as they enter a bank with multiple firearms.